This is my review of My Hero Academia. Okay, so in this episode, for the most part, we really just got a backstory on One for All and the appearance and subsequent rise and decline from power of All for One, the person, and who used his quirk, One for All, to dominate the world. It's confusing. It gets very confusing very quickly. So I'm going to try and explain the best I can. So the episode starts off with Deku thanking Gran Torino for his time and asking Gran Torino why he isn't as famous as All Might is. And Gran Torino points out that it was mainly because he wasn't really interested in fame to begin with and only really got teaching license and a hero license just so he had something to do with his time. After which Deku fully cements himself to becoming a hero, and he returns to class, and everybody is excited both because he and his friends were the first 3 students to actually fight villains, not excluding Sue, who also fought a villain in her own spare time. So the 4 of them are kind of really the talk of the classroom. After which they go to All Might's training class, and Deku shows off his new trick to his entire classmates unintentionally. The thing is that they set up a plot line where they were going to do some mobility training, and Deku, whose new trick is all about maintaining mobility while keeping his quirk active at all times, is able to mostly excel at it. He only really fails at the exercise because he trips up in the final hurdle and falls flat on his face because of some uneven footing. That really can't be blamed on Deku, but for the most part, the entire class is surprised because they were expecting Deku to break something. They were expecting him to break a limb or something in the process, and then they were all pleasantly surprised when he managed to not only not do that, but also become in close second behind Zero. And then one more scene of Mineta being a pervert later. He goes to visit All Might, who wanted to talk to him about One for All and where it came from, and it's at this point where the episode starts to pick up a little bit. So during the scene, we get a little backstory on where One for All came from, and where and why it was created, and what the purpose of One for All actually is. So apparently 8 generations ago, the villain All for One took power at a time where society had basically almost collapsed on itself because quirks first emerged and people didn't really have a way to deal with them due to the fact that nothing like this had ever really existed in human history before. So All for One came in and basically claimed house and formed. Basically, he tried to rebuild society in his own image, and used himself as a rally point for everybody. And while he did do what he said to do, he, for the most part, just further cemented his power. And also, during this time, while he was cementing his power, he inadvertently created the first Nomus, who don't look as intimidating or imposing as they do now, but it's implied that he wound up experimenting and creating the Nomus later. So, because he realized that normal humans couldn't handle quirks if they were given to them, and others combined with other already existing powers to create new powers. So, and that's when One for All came in. So he had a little brother who was sickly and ill and wasn't exactly the big, intimidating symbol of peace that All Might is today, but his little brother, who I will be naming One for All because it's thematic. Anyway, One for All was presumably quirkless, but had a strong sense of justice. And either because he wanted to actually give a gift to his brother, or because he wanted his brother to submit to him, he gave him a quirk that caused him to stockpile power, which wound up combining with his already useless, previously known to be sort of useless and practically non-existent quirk of being able to pass on other quirks willingly. And case in point, it wound up becoming One for All, which he would then pass on from generation to generation until it eventually became strong enough that somebody would be able to defeat All for One. So, and it's also implied that All for One developed the abilities of basically being immortal through his absorption and collection of various quirks, and he eventually found one that made him immortal. And eventually it got to the point where All Might was able to beat him, sort of, because we know up to this point that All Might got a hole ripped in his stomach by All for One during their fight, and wound up, and as a result is no longer the hero he's able to be, in addition to slowly getting older and sort of succumbing to both old age and his injuries. He's slowly, in addition to giving the quirk to Deku, he's slowly losing his ability to control One for All. So, the One for All the quirk, might I add, not One for All the person. Those are two completely different things. I told you it got confusing. And then Deku, realizing what had been tasked to him, agrees to do his best as so long as All Might is able to stay by his side. But All Might monologues internally to himself, stating that he isn't entirely sure he will be, because he points out he's already injured and he's sort of a middle-aged man. He knows he doesn't have much time left, and he knows it's getting even worse the longer he is without his quirk, and it's eventually going to get to the point where he's not going to be able to use it at all. So he knows this, but lies to Deku to keep his spirits high, because he knows that Deku wouldn't understand if he told him. So it's clear that All Might is kind of having a bit of remorse. He wants to be there for Deku, but he doesn't think he always will be there for Deku. So it's kind of a somber moment at the end. And then we find out a bit of the plot for the next episode is that if people pass their final exams, they'll be going on a camping trip for training over the summer vacation, and if not, they'll be getting summer school. So, yeah, that's going to set up the plot line for the next couple episodes at the end of Season 2, and possibly the first couple episodes at the end of Season 3, presumably. But at the end, we actually do get a bit of a monologue from All for One himself, who points out that he's almost ready to return back to power, and is ready to reclaim what All Might took from him. And also points out that he thinks that eventually Shigaraki will be able to become the next him, become the next symbol of evil, similar to how Deku will one day become the next symbol of peace, and then the cycle will continue with Shigaraki and Deku. So it's clear that he believes he's eventually going to come back to power, but he also believes that Shigaraki is eventually going to be able to become the villain that All for One was, and still, to an extent, is. Although, from what we see in the final shot, it's clear that he's on life support and is clearly very, very injured. And I'm assuming when he does eventually rear his ugly head, he's probably going to be giving it his all, but he's going to exhaust himself very quickly due to his ailing body and his inability to, well, basically heal himself. Because as is stated by his assistant and doctor, apparently he did indeed obtain the super regeneration quirk, and which would eventually wind up in one of his Nomus. And with the intention of trying to heal himself and mitigate the need for medical equipment, but he acquired it too late and it didn't wound up doing much of anything, and only wound up making him even more of a mangled mess with no way of recovering. So, yeah, clearly he's still going to be a threat. I'm not sure how much of a threat he's going to be directly, but indirectly he's created several Nomus and caused a lot of havoc, and he did found the League of Villains and is continuing to be the brain behind the operation, even though he is no longer active as a villain, or at least not right now. So it's clear that All for One will eventually be coming back into the story and dealing some major damage, and there will be repercussions for that. But for right now, he's out of commission due to All Might's influence, although it was kind of a two-way street, as now he has injured All Might, and All Might is and now the two are kind of on even footing, I guess, because they're both injured now, and also it's implied that he has scar tissue covering his entire face, or at least his entire upper face in this shot. So it's clear that he can't exactly see very well. So I'm going to be interested when he does show up and start wrecking house, because it's evident from the ending scene that he can't really see all too good anymore because he has no face. So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, I think I've rambled long enough. I am looking forward to seeing what the rest of the show has to offer. I'm especially looking forward to seeing how the final exams are going to play out, because it's implied at the end of the episode during the preview that the students are going to be paired up into teams of 2 and have to fight it off against the teachers. And the teachers are kind of pro heroes, and they're kind of good at their job. So we may have a problem, at least for some of the students. But we'll see. So, anyway, if you guys have seen this episode of My Hero Academia, what did you guys think? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below, or over on my Discord server, link in the description. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, be sure to follow me on Facebook and on Twitter in the description below. And also, check out my Patreon description below as well. It's only a couple bucks a month, and it really helps me out, so I would definitely appreciate it if you did that. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace! I was not expecting you to pop out of a pot. You kind of startled me a little bit there. Oh, I need to